you sign up for the 3scale account, you get your own web page here. So the first thing I want to do is to sign in. You can see that I have actually created a number of projects in here. Right now it's showing me the dashboard when I first log in. The one I'm interested in is this one, the Shipping Product API, which I have already exposed using 3scale, which is the service I showed you earlier. So if you look at it here, click on it, you can see its usage in the past few days. Now, let me just go back to the API definition here. Click on API. Since I've already created a few projects, I just choose the one that I actually set up before. So, shipping products. Let's look at integration. You can see that there are a number of integration settings. The first one is whether you're going to use the gateway provided by 3scale or you're going to use your own self-managed gateway. In here, I'm actually using the self-managed gateway because I already deployed it onto my OpenShift platform. Another important thing is how you're going to authenticate your API. The most frequently used is actually the API key. That means you append the user key at the end of your URL in order to get it authenticated. Let's get back to the second setting. Integration. API class configuration. This is the configuration of your gateway. You can see that in here I actually specify the base URL of the service I'm exposing. So remember in the last section I showed you how I deployed it locally on my development OpenShift environment. Here I actually deployed it somewhere else onto my home server and exposing it to the outside world via the internet. So this is the URL that you can access that particular service I showed you earlier. And in here, I'm specifying the staging URL. That is the URL you're going to access via the 3scale API. So you can see that in here, I'm actually using HTTP in my service, but in here I want to protect it a bit using HTTPS. And I specify the port number as well. And you can see that in here, it's actually given you a curl command where you can actually test that particular service via this gateway. Let's go back in here. And one thing you want to find out is, one thing you learn is the application plans. This is used to control what you can do with what the user can do with their different application plans. You can have multiple ones here. In here, I've just created a product basic, shipping product basic plan. You can see that in here I can actually impose a limit on how many times a user belonging to that particular plan can access. For example, if I click on here, new usage limit, I can actually set the limit. For example, if I can set it to per minute, not over 10. So that means that if the user uses more than 10, he will not be allowed to do it per minute. I'm not going to change that, right? And that is how you configure it. And the documentation of API is very important. That's why it has something called the active doc. In here, I have already created the product documentation. Let's go back there. Just have a look at it. You can see that I actually created a Swagger spec using JSON. So how do I create this? That you have multiple ways of creating it. For example, if you're using FIS or Field Integration Services, you can actually incorporate the Swagger in there to generate a Swagger documentation within your source code, right? For example, you will have some older services where you don't have Swagger documentation. What you can do is you can either use a Swagger editor locally on your machine, or you can use something called the editor swagger.io in the internet. So the good thing about this is it will, when you type it in there, it will actually update the one on the right hand side, so you know exactly what you are doing. And in here you can see that I'm actually using YAML, but 3scale require JSON, so that is very easy. All you need to do is just convert it, download it as JSON, it will convert the YAML into JSON or vice versa. So what I did is I created the Swagger documentation here on editor swagger.io and just cut and paste it into here, right? So once you have defined that, you can actually go to the documentation page, the user portal, developer portal. So if I choose the right one, this is the documentation I created. If you click on Get, you can see that it have lots of information in it because of that Swagger file. So it has the response that is expected from this call, and also it describes all the parameters in here. Like for example, you must have product IDs, right? So what are product IDs? There's a description here. So features is a filter which is optional, so it's not required, mandatorily required. You can see that you have all this description here. For example, in order to test it, what I can do is just initialize it with some information in here. Product IDs, I add these two product IDs in there. Feature I can ignore because it's mandatory. From postcode, just enter postcode there, 4-digit postcode, 2 postcode, arrival date, and the important thing here is the user key. So without it, you won't be able to access it. So I've forgotten what my user key is, so I got to add it back. So once I've entered this information, I can actually try it out. So there's a try it out button. So we'll click on it. Is that, yeah, you can use this particular curl command to do it, and actually it has actually executed. Ooh, invalid, because there's an error in the response saying that this is invalid protocol. Let's have a look at what's gone wrong. You can see that it's ARL, the protocol, not just AR. So let's do it again. Try it out. Now this time it works because there's actually syntax checking in the service, so it actually tells you that there's something wrong. That's it for now.